We're keeping a close eye on the White House this hour, where 10 Republican senators are meeting with President Biden over COVID relief. Let's welcome former Maryland congressional candidate Kim Klacik. Democrats say, Kim, that they are going to ram through COVID-19 relief without Congress when the rest of the country is actually saying reopen schools, get us back to business, get us working again, and bring the prosperity back. It's not necessarily about this relief package per se. Your thoughts on the approach that's being taken when it comes to stimulus, and is this more to appease Wall Street, for example, and certain parts of the population over putting the priorities first?
Yeah, well, thank you, Jackie, so much for having me. I appreciate it. Unfortunately, this is what we see all the time, right? Congress is supposed to be representatives of the American people. Unfortunately, when American people speak up and their voices are just not heard. And so there are a lot of people that are, like you said, want the economy to be open, reopen businesses, reopen schools. We see a lot of parents that are frustrated. People want to work. They do not want government assistance. Now, of course, the relief would be great, and I'm sure it's wanted and appreciated. But at the same time, we saw with the other stimulus bills, that money doesn't seem to make it to the American people, right? A lot of people got paid, but it was special interest groups, it was lobbyists, it was everyone else in the middle. And then you see cities like the city of Baltimore, where you have local leaders that are keeping businesses closed, and those businesses have been relying on each other to raise money to help at least, restaurants stay in business through all this. So the COVID relief bill now on the table, $1 trillion. That's absolutely ridiculous, considering the fact that there's money left in the other stimulus bills. But we know that that money is not going to go directly to the people, and that's the problem that I have.
And Kim, I'll add to that. We found states where there's been massive unemployment insurance fraud. We even have been talking about this GameStop story, and several market experts have said, do you think that the people who are sitting at home that have gotten these stimulus checks, that's what they're using it for, to put it into the market and essentially gamble instead of using it for what it was meant for? So there are a lot of problems here. But when it comes to this bill also, there's the issue that it's not really targeted relief, as you say. It also includes a lot of other things that could easily be cut. Just one, primitive example is the $15 an hour minimum wage raise.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're absolutely right. I think some people are gambling at this point because you don't know when this pandemic is going to be over. You don't know when some of these places are going to reopen. It's all at the hands of these local officials that have yet to miss a paycheck. And that's what's so crazy about this. These individuals that are making decisions have been getting paid this entire time for almost a year now, and so they don't exactly feel the heat. So I really hope that they listen to the American people and they get them the relief they need. And you're right, they have to target it for families and for small businesses in order for us to be able to go back to work, in just a manner of opening business for some people. Restaurants were hit so hard. I don't know if all of them will be able to open their doors. So
no,
we have to get it.
They won't. Half of them probably won't. They've actually been here in New York City. They've been hit so hard. Many of the businesses that had to close will not reopen again, and that includes restaurants. But I do want to ask you this, because when President Biden came into office, he said, or at least when he was on the debate stage, let's recall that, he was talking about a transition to alternative energy that would take a long time. It was going to be a process and a transition. One of the first thing that he does is overturn the Keystone Pipeline. 11,000 people are put out of work as a direct result of that will not get jobs back tomorrow. Listen to Senator Cassidy on this.
I think the problem comes from his policy. I've never seen an administration start off deciding to kill jobs. Let's kill 11,000 Keystone XL jobs like that. By the way, those are folks who don't make their money on a Zoom call. They make their money getting calluses and packing a lunch. Those jobs are gone. Let's raise the minimum wage to $15. That restaurant just barely hanging on now closes completely, entirely, forever, because their fixed overhead went up so much in the middle of a pandemic.
So this president who came in saying that he was going to be a president for everyone, that he was going to unify, that he was going to work on both sides of the aisle with the stroke of a pen, just nixed 11,000 jobs.
Yeah, Joe Biden, obviously, this is where I say read the room, Joe, right? Here we are in the middle of a pandemic, like you said, people are already losing their jobs, Now we're losing 11,000 jobs for people that get up and go and, hit the clock every morning. And like he said, get calluses every day. This isn't done on a Zoom call. And so, for the audacity of John Kerry to take the stage last week and say they're going to have to find another job, for John Kerry, who's a millionaire, I guess he could say that with ease. But these families are now trying to figure out what they're going to do moving forward in an economy and in some areas where businesses are not open. So for Joe Biden to do this, of course, I think it's, political, and obviously it's for self-enrichment. If you look at the people around Joe Biden, I think that this whole climate change discussion really isn't about the environment. I think it's about the good old boys club and who's handing money to who. But we'll never really know that, right, until we follow the money completely.
And Kim, it's also partially about the fact that the president has to pander to the extreme left because they supported him to take this position. And he said, nope, that's not going to happen. And yet we see it happening.
Yep, and just yesterday, there was a hashtag Biden lied that was trending #1, and it wasn't from Republicans, it was from Democrats. Democrats are now starting to see that he was not telling the truth on those debate stages. Yeah. He was saying what he had to get elected, and so now there's a lot of moderate Democrats that are upset, and there's a lot of moderate Democrats, I think, that voted for Joe Biden that have some of those jobs now that he's revoking the permits in that Keystone Pipeline.
Kim, thank you so much for your time tonight. Really appreciate it. Nice to see you.